So most clinic owners find out that their best clinician is unhappy on the day that they leave. And I recently worked with a clinic that had this exact scenario, and I could see it evolving in front of my own eyes. And we put an intervention in place, and the rest is history. So in this video, I'm going to show you the belief we need to break, the 4 phrases to really look out for in your practice, and what you're going to do Monday morning to change this. My name's Gunaratnam, and I'm the founder of Culture of One, and today we are talking about psychological safety. So the problem here is by the time you spot someone who is going to be leaving your practice, they've already decided and they're 1 foot out the door. One, this is just a terrible position to try to negotiate from, because you know this person's already leaving, and they probably, if they even care to stay, it'll be for a big sum of money. And that is not a reason you want someone sticking around for, because that problem's not going away. And secondly, we could have got ahead of this if we saw the signs much, much sooner than that tap on the shoulder. And I tell you what, those signs are almost always there, and it is easy to see when you know what you're looking for. One of the biggest problems is clinicians in particular often don't feel safe to voice their concerns. And this happens if in the past they've voiced concerns and you haven't reacted well to them. For example, you've ignored them, or you said, you know what, great, but not now. Without robust dialogue between clinicians back and forth, you can end up alienating them to a point where they go, you know what, when I bring feedback, nothing happens, so I'm just going to stop bringing feedback. And that is the exact failure point when people aren't telling you what's going wrong. So the main thing on that front to be looking out for is actually silence. So a clinic I work with had this exact issue, which is 2 staff members who would always be going off for lunch together. They wouldn't stay with the team. They wouldn't really integrate. They weren't really talking to anybody but each other, which sounds good in theory, right? It's good that they've got friends, but that lack of integration just means we're probably looking at not 1, but 2 potential flight risks that might both go together. And here's the real problem, is that even though they were new, they were the 2 top billing therapists. When we unpack what psychological safety looks like, the place to go is Amy Edmondson from Harvard. And it is really a shared belief that the team is safe for interpersonal risk-taking. And part of that risk-taking is safe to have a voice and to say something, and especially for people who are young clinicians in a practice. Sometimes that's not the easiest thing at all. You'll know you're nailing this when you hear phrases like, I made a mistake, or I need help, or I don't know. I don't know is a phrase people say when they feel safe that someone else is going to help them and they're not going to be judged for it. And the best one, I disagree. The clearest signs we have a safe environment, outside of completely toxic environments, mind you, is when people feel safe to disagree and offer a better perspective, not simply just disagree and disregard. We're always looking at this from a growth-oriented lens. So I don't agree with what we're doing, but I think we could do it this way, is part of robust dialogue that occurs in environments which have really good, strong psychological safety around them. So my question to you is really, when did you last actually hear one of your staff saying a phrase like, I disagree, or I don't know, and being open and honest about it? Because that will give you a really good temperature check on where your practice is right now. Was it something they said this week? Was it this month? Can you not remember the last time you had a conversation where it felt like someone needed you? If you're interested in learning how to fix this for good in your own practice, I've created a free resource which you can download below. It'll go straight to your inbox, and you can be reading about all this stuff at bedtime tonight. And look, it's not about being nice. You don't have to be nice to everyone and polite and smile and go around like you're Barbie. But you have to find a way of having really important conversations with people where they feel respected. And part of that is not avoiding hard conversations. It's speaking honestly without fear of embarrassment, without fear of ridicule, and without fear of punishment. And the more honest you can be with your team, the more honesty will come back from you, which is why I'm such a big advocate for transparency in everything that we do, from the metrics we measure to the financials and everything across the board, because that is what creates an integrated team with a really nice safety net. Now, from Edmondson's model, there are 4 domains here, which we want to look at and really analyze from a perspective of, okay, if safety is high, people are either going to be comfortable or they're going to be in the learning zone. If safety was low, they're either going to be apathetic or have anxiety because they don't know what's going on and they're not sure who's there to help them. So across those 4 domains, there's a different place each person can be. And to be honest, I think I lived a lot of my career in the bottom right corner, which is high levels of accountability were expected of me. You know, for example, starting out as a contractor where the market itself is holding you to account. You are not going to get paid unless you see patients. So that is probably a lower psychological safety environment where you're sitting in that anxiety. But it does make learning challenging because you are constantly fearful of that. And do you see the connection there? Because if we're creating anxiety for people around their retention, it actually makes it hard for them to learn what they need to learn to improve their clinical skills to get the retention happening. And that is why this is so valuable. The worst place anyone can sit is in apathy. They're not being held accountable. Nobody cares about them and they just don't give anything. That is the absolute worst place, and you don't want anyone sitting there. And to be honest, the second worst place, in my opinion, is actually comfort. I'm comfortable with where things are, but I have no desire to push myself. That's the sort of thing that really, you know, I can deal with anxiety. I can help that. Apathy, I know that's the wrong person. Comfort without challenge, that's an area which I think we really need to be conscious of because comfort slips down to apathy very quickly. The trap most school clinics sit in is they're going for that maximum safety and they nail comfort. We're a family, everyone's connected, we're doing all the right things, but it's not the same as hitting that learning zone and having the accountability underlying it, because people actually feel safer with some level of accountability as well, because it shows if they're not on track, someone is there to catch them and to lift them up and to hold the standards. And that's very, very important. Here's the part nobody expects though, which is the biggest driver of psychological safety is role clarity. This is one of the reasons onboarding is so important, how we shape people. There's no point telling someone their KPIs in month 6. Like, we need to be having regular conversations about that and what our expectations are of them. I'm not a big advocate for KPIs. There is a role for them in terms of providing somewhat. There is a role for them in terms of providing a framework for people to reference, but I think that's as much as we need to talk about with them. It's about clarity. What I want you to do is give 100% to the patient in front of you. That's all you have to do, and just do it again and again and again. So it's your turn now, Monday morning. If this is ringing off a few bells for you, I want you to find the person you need to seek out and say, I got this wrong. Can we have a chat about it? Ask one person in your team, is there anything that we're missing here? Count the days until someone says one of those 4 phrases we talked about back to you and see what's underlying that. Bit of detective work. If you want this applied to your team, this is exactly what I do in my private advisory. And in all honesty, I think this is the needle moving stuff, how we deal with each individual team member, how we set paths for them, and how we build them to be the kind of clinicians we want them to be long term, because that is the strength of every practice. I've recently run a workshop on this. You can find the details to purchase that if you're interested in a little bit more oversight on this topic. The links are in the description. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next video.